The rain came down in sheets that afternoon in Portland, the kind that turns every sidewalk into a mirror and makes the whole city feel like it's underwater. I was 28, soaked to the bone, and running on maybe 3 hours of sleep after pulling an all-nighter to finish a set of revisions for a client who kept changing his mind about window placements. My umbrella had flipped inside out 2 blocks back, so by the time I pushed open the door to Paper Anchor, an old indie bookstore tucked between a record shop and a closed-down florist, I looked like I'd just walked out of a car wash. The bell above the door gave a tired jingle. The place smelled like wet paper and cedar, and the only light came from a couple of lamps with green glass shades. I shook water off my jacket, muttered an apology to the empty room, and headed toward the architecture section near the back. I just needed one book, something with early Frank Lloyd Wright sketches, anything to keep my mind from replaying the last conversation I'd had with Sarah 4 months ago, the one that ended with a ring sliding across a kitchen counter and the sound of a door closing for good. I was scanning the spines when I heard a voice from the children's aisle. Are you looking for a book to fix a broken heart? Because this section only has picture books. I turned. A woman stood halfway up a small step stool holding a broom like a microphone, dark hair twisted into a loose knot on top of her head, a few strands stuck to her cheek from the humidity. She wore an oversized cream sweater that slipped off one shoulder and a pair of paint-splattered jeans. She was smiling like she'd just caught me stealing cookies. I opened my mouth, closed it, then managed. I was actually looking for something by Wright, the architect, not the brother who wrote Native Son. She laughed, soft, like she already knew I was lying about why I was really there. Architecture's 2 aisles over, but you look like you could use the detour. I should have just nodded and walked away. Instead, I said, do you always diagnose customers on site? Only the ones who walk in looking like drowned cats and pretend they're fine. She came down the steps, leaned the broom against a shelf, and wiped her hands on her jeans. I'm Camilla. I run the kids' events here on weekends and sweep floors when the high school kid calls in sick. Ethan, I said, I design buildings that people change their minds about every 3 days. She tilted her head, studying me the way you study a blueprint you're not sure you trust yet. You believe in second chances, Ethan? The question hit harder than it should have. I shrugged, tried to play it off. I believe in them. Just not sure I believe people are brave enough to take them. Her eyes softened, something quick and unguarded flashing across her face before the smile came back, smaller this time. Maybe some of us are still learning how. Rain hammered the windows. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she reached into the pocket of her sweater, pulled out a scrap of paper, and scribbled something with a pen she produced from behind her ear like a magician. Saturday, she said, holding it out. 2:00, Vintage Book Fair at the Community Library on Morrison. I give private tours to people who look like they're trying to find their way back to something. I took the paper, our fingers brushed, her skin was warm. And if I don't show? I asked. She picked up the broom again, already turning toward the next puddle on the floor. Then I guess the heart you came in with stays broken. But something tells me you're tired of carrying it around like that. I walked out into the rain with the note folded in my fist and the strangest feeling in my chest, like someone had just opened a window I'd forgotten was there. Back in my apartment that night, I unfolded the paper under the lamp. Her handwriting was neat, looping, confident. Saturday, 2 p.m. Don't be late. Hearts hate waiting. I set it on the nightstand next to the ring I still hadn't put away, and for the first time in months fell asleep without replaying every word of that final fight. Saturday arrived gray and damp, the kind of Portland afternoon that makes you question why anyone ever leaves the house. I almost didn't. I stood in front of my closet for 20 minutes trying to decide if showing up meant I was desperate or just curious. In the end, I pulled on a dark green sweater, the one my mom says makes me look less like I'm allergic to hope, and drove to the community library on Morrison. The Vintage Book Fair spilled across the main hall, long tables covered in cloth, yellowed paperbacks stacked like bricks, the smell of old glue and coffee everywhere. I spotted Camilla before she saw me. She stood near a display of 1950s children's books, wearing a rust-colored midi dress and a denim jacket, hair down for the first time. She was talking to a small group, gesturing at a cover with a rocket ship and a grinning dog, voice warm, hands moving like she was painting the story in the air. When the group drifted away, she turned and found me standing there like an idiot, holding a paper cup I'd bought just to have something in my hands. I didn't think you'd come, she said, walking over. I almost didn't, I admitted. Then I remembered I'm tired of almost. She smiled, small and real, and tilted her head toward the next table. Come on, private tour, as promised. We moved slowly through the aisles. She knew every book like it was an old friend. Which illustrator had a drinking problem? Which author wrote love letters in the margins? Which first edition was worth more than my car? I mostly listened. It was easy to listen to her. When we reached a quieter corner near the poetry section, she stopped. So, she said, leaning against a shelf, how broken are we talking? I laughed under my breath. Engaged for 14 months. Found out 3 weeks before the wedding she'd been sleeping with the best man for half that time. Rings in a drawer. Hearts, somewhere in the same zip code, I think. Camilla didn't gasp or say she was sorry. She just nodded, like she'd heard the shortened version 100 times and knew the long one was worse. I've got 2 kids, she said, voice steady. Luna's 9 going on 40. Mateo's 11 and thinks feelings are contagious. Their dad decided parenting wasn't his thing 6 years ago. Walked out with a duffel bag and a promise to send postcards. We're still waiting. I looked at her, really looked. No makeup today, faint lines at the corners of her eyes, a tiny scar on her collarbone I hadn't noticed before. She wasn't hiding anything. Why tell me all that on day 1? I asked. Because I don't have time to find out 6 months in that someone thinks single moms are a charity project. She shrugged. Better to scare you off early. I don't scare easy, I said. She studied me for a long second. We'll see. That was the beginning. After the fair, we started meeting every Thursday afternoon in the library cafe. Same table by the window that looked out on the wet maple trees. She'd bring terrible coffee. I'd bring whatever pastry hadn't sold out at the bakery near my office. We talked about everything except what we were doing. One Thursday in November, rain tapping the glass, I asked the question I'd been carrying for weeks. You joke about love like it's a game you already lost. Why not just lock the door? She traced the rim of her cup. Because my kids need stability more than I need another person who might leave. Every guy I've let in since their dad has looked at the fine print, 2 kids, weird hours, birthday parties, science projects, and decided the contract wasn't worth signing. I leaned forward. Let me read the fine print, Camilla, out loud, slowly. No rushing, no disappearing. She didn't answer right away. Outside, a gust of wind sent wet leaves slapping against the window. Finally, she met my eyes. One step at a time, Ethan. That's all I've got. I reached across the table and covered her hand with mine. She didn't pull away. A week later, on the last Thursday before Thanksgiving, the library closed early. We were the only 2 left in the cafe. The lights dimmed to half. She looked at me, something nervous and brave flickering across her face, then turned her hand over and laced our fingers together. Neither of us said anything. We just sat there in the quiet, palms pressed together, letting the moment stretch until it felt like something we could keep. When we finally stood to leave, she didn't let go until we reached the door. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled clean, like the city had decided to start over. I walked her to her car. Before she got in, she rose on her toes and kissed my cheek. Soft, quick, deliberate. Thursday still works for me, she whispered. Wouldn't miss it, I said. She smiled, got in, and drove away. I stood under the streetlight for a long time, feeling the place where her lips had been, wondering how it was possible to miss someone you'd only just started knowing. The Thursdays turned into something we never named. We kept meeting at the library, then the cafe across the street when the weather turned colder, then the little park with the heated lamps when the kids were at their dad's aunt's for the weekend, the closest thing to visitation they ever got. Camilla let me in inch by inch, the way you open a window in winter, just enough to feel the air change, never wide enough to let the cold rush all the way in. I learned the small things first. She took her coffee with 1 sugar and a drop of oat milk. She underlined sentences in library books with a mechanical pencil and always erased the marks before returning them. She could quote entire passages from Where the Wild Things Are and still tear up at the line about being king of all wild things. Then came the night everything tilted. It was a Friday in early February, the kind of wet cold that gets inside your bones. I was at home sketching a pro bono community center remodel when my phone lit up with her name. Luna has a fever. 102.8. I'm out of children's Tylenol, and every storybook we own has been read so many times she can recite them back to me. I hate asking, but I was already pulling on my coat. Give me 20 minutes. I stopped at the 24-hour pharmacy, grabbed grape-flavored medicine, a cold pack, and on a whim, a hardcover of The Little Prince with the original watercolor illustrations, the one she'd once said Luna used to sleep with when she was little. When I pulled up to her house, a narrow blue two-story with a porch light that flickered like it was nervous, I sat in the car for a full minute, working up the courage to cross the line I'd been hovering over for months. This wasn't the library cafe. This was her home, her kids, her real life. I walked up the steps carrying the bag like it weighed 100 pounds. The door opened before I could knock. Camilla looked exhausted, hair in a messy knot, oversized cardigan, eyes red from worry. She took one look at me standing there soaked and holding children's medicine like a peace offering, and stepped aside without a word. I stayed on the porch. I didn't know the rules yet. "She's on the couch," she whispered. "I'll bring her the medicine." I handed her the bag. Our fingers brushed, same as always, but this time she held on a second longer. From inside, I heard a small, raspy voice. "Mom, is that the man who makes you smile at your phone when you think we're not looking?" Camilla's cheeks went scarlet. She glanced back at me, half mortified, half something softer. I pretended I hadn't heard, just gave her a small smile and stayed where I was. She disappeared inside. I could hear murmuring, the clink of a spoon against a plastic cup, then footsteps. Camilla came back with an empty medicine cup and the book in her hand. "Luna wants to know if the nice man who brought The Little Prince would read the first chapter. She says her throat hurts too much." I swallowed. I'd like that. She opened the door wider. I stepped over the threshold for the first time. The living room was warm and cluttered in the best way. Crayons on the coffee table, a half-finished Lego castle, a blanket fort that had collapsed on one side. Luna was curled under a mountain of blankets on the couch, cheeks flushed, dark hair sticking to her forehead. She looked exactly like her mom, only smaller and more fragile. Mateo sat cross-legged on the floor playing a handheld game, pretending not to watch me. I sat on the edge of the coffee table, opened the book, and started reading about a pilot who crashes in the desert. My voice cracked once. Luna's eyes never left my face. When I finished the chapter, she whispered, "Will you come back when I'm not sick?" I looked at Camilla. She was leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes shining, with something I couldn't name yet. "Yeah," I said, "I'll come back." Camilla walked me out after Luna fell asleep. The porch light still flickered. The rain had turned to mist. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I've handled sick nights alone for 6 years. I forgot what it feels like to have someone show up." "I'm not going anywhere," I told her. She studied me for a long moment, then reached up and tucked a strand of wet hair behind my ear, the most deliberate touch she'd ever given me. "The porch light stays on from now on," she said, "just in case you ever need to find your way here." 2 nights later, I showed up unannounced with takeout tie and a new nightlight shaped like a rocket ship for Luna. Mateo answered the door, sized me up, then yelled over his shoulder, "Mom, your boyfriend's here with noodles." Camilla appeared in the hallway, face red, but she was smiling. I stepped inside without waiting for an invitation this time. That night, I fixed the broken lamp in Mateo's room, read 2 more chapters to Luna, and sat with Camilla on the couch long after the kids were asleep, her head on my shoulder, my hand tracing slow circles on her back while some old movie played with the sound off. I didn't kiss her. Not yet. But when I left at midnight, she walked me to the door and stood on her toes to press her forehead against mine. "Stay a little longer next time," she whispered. I did. Week after week, I found excuses to be there, helping Mateo with a diorama of Fort Clatsop, teaching Luna how to sketch floor plans with colored pencils, fixing the leaky kitchen faucet Camilla had been ignoring for months. I learned their rhythms. Tuesday tacos, Thursday laundry, Sunday pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. And every time I crossed that threshold, the house felt a little more like a place I belonged. One night in March, after the kids were in bed, Camilla handed me a key on a simple silver ring. "It's a spare," she said, not quite looking at me. "In case you ever get here before I do. Or, in case you decide you want to stop leaving." I closed my hand around it. The porch light didn't flicker anymore. I'd replaced the bulb the week before. April brought the first real warmth to Portland, the kind that tricks you into believing everything is easy again. My firm was finishing a mid-century office remodel downtown, and the partners decided to throw a launch party on a Thursday night, the same Thursday Camilla and I usually claimed for ourselves. I almost skipped it, but the lead partner cornered me with a beer and a, "You've been somewhere else lately. Come celebrate with the rest of us mortals." So I went. The venue was one of those converted warehouses with exposed brick and Edison bulbs, packed with clients, contractors, and every architect in the city who wanted to be seen. I was nursing a club soda near the bar when I heard the laugh I still heard in my sleep sometimes. Sarah. She looked exactly the same. Blonde hair straight as a ruler, red dress that cost more than my first car. She was standing with the best man, now just the man, and a handful of people from her old circle. When she spotted me, her smile sharpened. "Ethan," she said, gliding over like nothing had ever exploded between us. "Still designing buildings nobody can afford to live in?" I gave her the polite nod you give someone who once knew where you kept your spare key. "Still doing pro bono work nobody notices," I answered. She laughed again, louder this time, and the group turned. Someone asked about my love life. Someone else joked that I was probably married to my drafting table. Sarah leaned in, voice syrupy. "Actually, I heard Ethan's dating a single mom now. Quite the career change, from architect to full-time babysitter. How noble." The words landed like a slap, but it was the ripple of laughter that followed that made my stomach drop. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, when I felt a hand on my arm. Camilla. She had come to surprise me, wearing the green dress she saved for parent-teacher nights, hair down, small smile already fading. She'd heard everything. "Hey," she said quietly, eyes flicking from Sarah to me. "I thought I'd pick you up so you wouldn't have to drive home tired. Bad timing, I guess." Sarah's eyebrows shot up in exaggerated delight. "Oh, this must be her. Hi, I'm Sarah, Ethan's ex-fiancée. You must be the project." Camilla's face didn't change, but I saw the wall go up behind her eyes. She gave Sarah the same polite nod I'd given her 30 seconds earlier. "Nice to meet you," Camilla said. Then to me, softer, "I'll wait in the car." She was gone before I could stop her. The rest of the party blurred. I left 10 minutes later, found her in the parking lot leaning against my car, arms crossed, staring at the ground. "I'm sorry," I said. I know who she is." Her voice was calm, too calm. "And I know what I just walked into." "Camilla," she held up a hand. "Ethan, I have 2 kids who already lost one dad. I don't have the luxury of pretending words don't hurt. I won't be anyone's redemption arc. Or anyone's downgrade joke." I stepped closer. "You're not. Then what am I?" She finally looked at me, and the hurt there cut deeper than Sarah's smug smile ever could. "Because right now it feels like I'm the thing people laugh about when they're trying to figure out why you're not the same guy anymore." Rain started, light at first, then harder. Neither of us moved. "You're the reason I'm not the same guy anymore," I said. "And I don't want to be him again." She shook her head. "You say that now, but I come with soccer practices and science fairs and a minivan that smells like old juice boxes. I come with baggage that talks back and needs braces. I won't let you wake up one day and realize you signed up for a life you didn't actually want." I took the keys from her hand, opened the passenger door, and gently nudged her inside out of the rain. Then I walked around, got in, and sat there with the engine off, water drumming on the roof. "I'm not signing up for a life I didn't want," I said. "I'm choosing the one I do want. And it's messy and loud. And has 2 kids who argue about whose turn it is to feed the goldfish. And it has you." She stared straight ahead, arms still crossed. "I heard what she called me," she whispered. "A project, a sacrifice. I've spent 6 years making sure my kids never feel like anyone's obligation. I won't start now." I turned to her. "You're not an obligation. You're the first person who makes me want to stop running from everything that got broken. You're not a sacrifice, Camilla. You're the reason I finally want to stay and build something." even if the blueprint is messier than anything I've ever drawn. Silence stretched between us, filled only by the rain. Then she spoke so quietly I almost missed it. I'm scared. I know, I said. Me too. She turned then, eyes shining. If we do this, we do it all the way. No half doors, no escape hatch. My kids get all of you or none of you. I reached across the console and took her hand. I'm not asking for a trial run. I'm asking to become part of the room that's already there. She searched my face for a long time. The rain slowed to a drizzle. Finally, she nodded once. When I drove her home that night, I didn't drop her at the curb. I parked, walked her to the porch, and stood there while she unlocked the door. Before she went in, she rose on her toes and kissed me, really kissed me, for the first time. Not soft, not careful, like someone deciding to jump. When she pulled back, her forehead rested against mine. The light staying on, she whispered. It always was, I said. Saturday again, 6 months after the night in the rain. Portland had slipped into the soft part of autumn, the maples along Camilla's street bleeding red and gold onto the sidewalks. I pulled up to the little blue house with the porch light that no longer flickered. I'd replaced the fixture weeks ago and sat in the truck for a minute, hands on the wheel, feeling the same nerves I'd had the first time I stood on those steps with children's Tylenol and a storybook. Only this time, the back seat was full. I grabbed the 3 gift bags, climbed the stairs, and knocked. Footsteps thundered inside. The door flew open and Luna barreled into my legs, arms wrapping around my waist. You're late, she accused, grinning up at me with the gap where her front tooth used to be. By 30 seconds, I said, ruffling her hair. Traffic on the bridge. Mateo appeared behind her, trying to look cool and failing. Mom said you were bringing presents. That's bribery, you know. Guilty, I laughed. Camila stepped into the hallway then, barefoot in jeans and one of my old hoodies, hair loose, eyes soft. She leaned against the frame and crossed her arms, watching us like she still couldn't quite believe this was real. I handed Luna the first bag. She pulled out a deluxe box of watercolor pencils and squealed loud enough to wake the neighbors. Mateo opened a massive Lego architecture set of the Empire State Building. His eyes went wide. Mom, he got me the one with 900 pieces. Camilla raised an eyebrow at me. You're spoiling them. There's one more, I said quietly. I held out the last bag, small, navy blue tied with twine. She took it carefully like it might break. Inside was a rolled sheet of heavy drawing paper. She unrolled it slowly. It was a hand-drawn plan. Her house as it was now, but with an addition off the back. A light-filled studio with huge windows, a slanted ceiling, built-in bookshelves, and a single drafting table facing the garden. In the corner I'd written in pencil, "For the woman who taught me some homes are built with more than wood and nails." Her breath caught. She looked up at me, eyes already shining. Ethan? Luna tugged at her sleeve. Does this mean he's staying, Mom? Like, for real, staying? Camilla's gaze never left mine. Ask him. I crouched so I was eye level with both kids. I'm staying, I said. If that's okay with you two. Mateo shrugged, trying to play it off, but his voice cracked. I guess we could keep you. Luna threw her arms around my neck. Yes, you can help me finish my treehouse drawing and read the long chapters and make pancakes on Sundays. I looked up at Camilla. She was crying now, quiet tears sliding down her cheeks. I stood, took the drawing from her hands and set it carefully on the entry table. I'm not asking you to marry me today, I said. I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I'm just telling you, and them, that this is where I want to be every day, every messy, loud, beautiful day. She stepped forward, pressed her forehead to mine, and whispered, You're already here. That night we built the Lego tower on the living room floor while Luna painted beside us, watercolor smudges on her cheeks. Camilla cooked spaghetti, the sauce splattering on the stove the way it always did, and I set the table without being asked. The porch light glowed steady through the window, the way it had every night since I changed the bulb. Later, after the kids were asleep, we sat on the couch under the same blanket we'd shared for months. She curled into my side, head on my chest. I thought I met the wrong person once, I said into her hair. Turns out I just arrived a little late. She tilted her face up, kissed me slow and certain, and smiled against my lips. Welcome home, Ethan. Outside, the rain started again. Soft, steady, like Portland's way of saying everything was exactly where it was supposed to be.